Here's Johnny. Well, hello everybody and welcome to this Tuesday's MBE Movie News. I see everybody, I think there's one person watching just now. I'm on my lonesome. It's a controversial topic that I am dabbling with on the show tonight, so it doesn't surprise me that not a lot of people are perhaps tuning in. But look, I digress. If you've read the actual title, if you've looked at the thumbnail, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But if you've missed it, there you go, I'll put it down there in the little graphic bar. Who should be recast as Gellert Grindelwald, and do you even care about it? That is a question I'm pondering on the show tonight. Well, if you watched last night's show, you'll know that I really don't care about this at the moment. I'm quite despondent at the treatment of poor old Johnny Depp by the executives at Warner Bros. By all accounts, AT&T, huge tech company over in the States, bought over Warner Brothers fairly recently, and they have shook things up at the very upper echelons of the company, and they're not mucking around with controversy and people who could perhaps ruin the image of the company. Just put them in a sticky pickle, if you'd like, at press junkets and stuff like that. So I get why they've done it, but I'm despondent because I love Johnny Depp. I think he's a great actor. I've loved him for years. Grew up watching this guy's work, and I just don't believe that he is capable of hitting women, and I don't believe it happened. I think Amber Heard's a line, you know what, and I think her day will come in a civil libel suit over in the United States. But look, that's for other days. This is the here and the now. Who should replace Johnny Depp as Gellert Grindelwald? Well, I'm going to bring up this article here. It's coming in from somewhere, Entertainment Weekly. To be honest, I had a whole array of different articles up on this subject, with varying degrees of different actors' names being mooted as a potential successor. I didn't like some of them. There was some ridiculous ideas being floated out, the likes of James McAvoy. Not a chance can James McAvoy replace Johnny Depp. Not that he's not a good enough actor, by all accounts probably a better actor in some ways, but he's just not got the stature and he's not got that continuity in terms of looks. You need someone with a truly magnificent head of hair like Johnny. And look, the first choice you've got coming in certainly fills that criteria, and some. Matt Smith. Now, Matt is a great actor. We know him over here for the likes of Doctor Who. He took over from David Tennant, sort of preceded Peter Capaldi. He's a fantastic actor. Of course, he also played a prince, I do believe. Was it Prince Philip? I think he played in The Crown. So he certainly has the acting chops to do it, and he's a great actor. He's got the hair. Would I want to see him taking over as Gellert Grindelwald? No, I wouldn't, and I'll tell you why. Because he is of a certain age, Gellert, and that age is sort of in alignment, if I can speak, with Jude Law. And Jude Law is a man in his mid to late 40s. Matt Smith, early 30s, doesn't match up. He's got to be the same age as Albus Dumbledore, and sadly for him, Jude Law plays him, so no, that's a no for me. Alexander Skarsgård, or Sarsgaard I should say. I want to add more Skarsgårds into the world. There's not enough of them already. It certainly, again, has the hairline, has the looks, has the acting chops. He's done a lot of really good stuff. He's going to be popping up in The Strand, as they do say here, which is, of course, I do believe the Stephen King mini-series of stories, short stories, being adapted. Again, he's not quite old enough, though, but they can do things with that. They can age him, and he's probably a little bit closer to the age of Jude Law than a Matt Smith, or perhaps he just doesn't show his age as badly as Matt. And I'm not saying Matt looks old or he looks young or anything in between, but perhaps he doesn't show his age as well as perhaps or doesn't show his aging as much as Alexander Skarsgård. I don't know how old he is, but I'm ambivalent towards it. I don't really want to see it. Nikolaj CosterWaldau is another name being mooted. It's an interesting choice. He's got a sort of accent though. I think he's a European chap. I don't know where he's from, perhaps Denmark or something. He's got a slight accent, so that'd be an issue, because the Gellert Grindelwald we've seen in the first two Fantastic Beasts movies certainly didn't have an accent. So again, continuity. Is that something they're going to worry about too much, Warner Brothers? Is it something the audience is going to care about? Because Richard Harris, of course, who played Albus Dumbledore in the first two Harry Potter movies, Philosopher's Stone or whatever the hell it's called over on the Sorcerer's Stone over in the States, and of course Chambers of Secret. He was an Irishman, and he had a distinctive tone to him, and they brought in Michael Gambon, and he was totally different looking, clearly much younger, and he had a completely different accent and way about him in general. So you can't bring in someone and expect them to impersonate Johnny Depp, so I suppose that's not even a point at this stage. Nikolaj CosterWaldau, or Nikolaj CosterWaldau, really good actor, played Jaime Lannister in the Game of Thrones franchise. He's done a lot of interesting indie hits since then. He is certainly capable of stepping into the role of Geralt Grindelwald. I don't want to see it though. I'll tell you who my choice is. If they do the right thing, Warner Brothers that is, and maintain my interest, and that's sack Amber Heard from the upcoming Aquaman 2, and just boot her out of this Justice League, this Zack Snyder Justice League cut. If they get rid of her, then I maintain my interest, and I'll actually be intrigued to see who they bring in. If they don't get rid of her, this is a moot note for me, a point for me. I'm not really caring who they bring in, because I won't be watching it. But look, I digress. Here we go. Mads Mikkelsen, again, an interesting choice, certainly in the right age bracket. Not get as good a hair as Johnny. I don't think he could pull off that side sweat, that sort of swept back. What's the name of that haircut again? I used to get it all the time, but sadly my hair's gone, so I've kind of forgot about it. It's a sort of disconnected, it's a dodgy cut. I think it's what the Hitler Youth used to wear back in the day, but that's not what it's called now. But yeah, he can't do that haircut. Clearly he's receding badly, and I feel for him, because I recede badly as well, but I've not got the long hair that he has. Certainly, look, tangents aside though, certainly got the acting chops. We've seen that in a wide array of movies, man. This guy's done everything really. Rogue One, Hannibal, they say. I think he was in The Woodsman. I think it was The Woodsman. I always get that mixed up with the Kevin Bacon one. But he was really, really good in that. He's a stupendous actor, man. And that, again, would be an interesting choice. Now, I've been kicking out the potential accents and stuff like that, but by all accounts, Grindelwald, in the novel accurate sort of telling of the character, is from Europe, sort of European origins. I think he went to Durmstrang, I think that's what it's called. I have to sort of polish up in my knowledge of Harry Potter, but he went to the sort of European equivalent to obviously Hogwarts, so it's certainly not something that rules out someone from a European country. Again, he's from Denmark, I think, Mads Mikkelsen. But this final choice, and look, we've had Benedict Cumberbatch being flung around as well. There's no way Benedict can fit this into his schedule. This guy's about to start shooting Multiverse of Madness. It's not going to happen. My personal choice would be Colin Farrell. If I have to maintain an interest in this and actually care on any real level, then Colin Farrell coming back would be my first choice. Of course, he did play Percival Graves, a sort of transfigured aura, who I think Grindelwald took a potion to obviously take on the appearance of him. So it'd be difficult for them to explain how this guy is playing a different character when he already exists in one vein or the other as Percival Graves. That'd be something that'd be really difficult for them to explain. But again, we don't really give a shit about that. If they sort of shit out with Heard and they can bring this guy in and they can make the scheduling work, because I've got another article opened here which suggests that they can't, then he'd be my first choice all day long, man. He was magnificent and Fantastic Beasts. He was a really sort of mysterious figure in that movie. The yin to the yang of whatever the hell his name is, I've completely blanked on it. The main man, Newt Scamander. He was the yin to the yang of that character, and he just wore a suit so well. He's got the hair. He's just a brilliant actor, charismatic as hell. He can do it all. He's playing the Penguin in the Batman. He'd be my choice, 100%. He's number one in most lists. He's number one in the fans list, the ones that actually give a shit, sans Johnny Depp, and he'd be number one in my list. Of course, as I did say, there is another article opened here which suggests that Colin Farrell may not indeed be able to play Geralt Grindelwald in a potential recasting role, because they're suggesting that he's too busy with the Batman at the moment. And I'm going to try and I don't think we've actually got any quotes, so I'm going to come away from it briefly. I've got other articles open regarding this topic, so I will get back into them. But by all accounts, his scheduling is not going to be able to marry up to make this something that could happen. But we've seen this done before, man. We've seen them rejig certain things. We've seen it with Tom Holland. He was able to fit in the Uncharted movie and then somehow maybe slide into the Spider-Man 3 stuff. There was talk of augmented scheduling, and I said they were going to do them basically back to back together, if you'd like. And it's certainly something they could maybe manufacture for Colin Farrell here. They could perhaps bring him in some vein in between the shoots of the Batman. I don't know if that's possible, if he has to lose weight, change his appearance dramatically, or if he's really wanting it, they could just hold back the production, because this movie, and this is one of the other articles I've actually got open, it's coming in from Empire, is not coming out until July 2022, so there's a huge amount of time between now and July 2022, a year and a half, pretty much 1 year and 7 months. Plenty of time for him to get the Batman out of the way. They're way into production at the moment, and then sort of position himself as the heir apparent to Johnny Depp as Gellert Grindelwald. It would be my choice, man. I have to tell you, it would be my choice. I think he's just perfect for the role. He's already played the role in some vein, and it was great. We have another article here. I'm going to briefly touch upon this before giving a little remark or two on the whole sacking of Johnny Depp. Before I spoke about it last night. I'm going to do it again though, because there's some things I forgot to mention, and they're really pertinent to the conversation, I think, anyway. But here's Jude Law speaking about the up-and-coming Fantastic Beasts 3 movie, and he said this to say a very lengthy quote, and a very upbeat quote, I have to say. Clearly not showing any real affinity for his brethren, if you'd like, his ex-co-star. He says this: "I'm so happy to be in this company, and I'm so happy to be playing this character. It feels like every day we make these films. It feels like such a blessing, and there's also such a sense of, well, it's the reverence, I suppose, because they hold such a special place in so many people. Hold people's hearts and lives, and I've never felt that way, the way I have on this job. The responsibility that comes with that, but it's a beautiful thing too. It's been given a really precious artifact, or something that you have to look after, maybe clean up a bit." So yeah, I mean, look, one of the things I really enjoyed about the Fantastic Beasts, The Crimes of Grindelwald, and there wasn't a huge amount of things, because it was a sort of connective movie. They were looking to expand out the world, the side characters and side players, if you like, for future movies. So it was a middling movie. And look, that's something I'd say, even Johnny Depp, going off on a slight tangent, as much as I like him, he is replaceable. Let's be honest, he's replaceable in this role. He wasn't mind-blown by any means. He was okay. He didn't have much to do. He appeared in the last minute of the first one. Second one, he was just floating around, really, looking nefarious. Never really done much, really, until the last 5 minutes of the movie, perhaps. There was a breakout, I think he was in a wagon or something, flying horses or some crap like that, but he's distinctly replaceable. Definitely replaceable. And Jude Law was one of these standout things in that second movie. He was just brilliant as a younger Albus Dumbledore. He had the charisma, the sort of presence. So if I do indeed go back and watch these movies, and I'm not entirely sure I am at this moment, then he's one of the things I'll definitely be going back to watch, because he was so good. And he's an actor I've had a fondness for many years. He's just got that way about him, and he can play everything, really. But look, briefly before I move on, Johnny Depp sacking Warner Brothers, the utter hypocrisy surrounding it. I read that article that suggested it was indeed because the court had solidified this view in the minds of the public, if you like, that he was indeed a wife beater. Even though it wasn't a criminal court case, it was just a civil lawsuit. And that's why they get rid of him. And I just feel that's an absolute joke, really, because obviously Amber Heard audio recordings of her admitting that she hit Johnny Depp, that she inflicted abuse, that she had added into this toxic relationship, this situation. She still gets to keep her job on Aquaman as Mira, and she still gets to keep her job in the reshoots of the Snyder Cut for Justice League. So that's hypocrisy number one. Hypocrisy number two, of course, Ezra Miller, another actor I really enjoy. I think he's eccentric, slightly strange, but a great actor. But he, of course, choked out a woman at a bar, and he got to keep his job as well as Flash. In fact, he had a hands-on approach in developing the next Flash movie. He won out after a sort of falling out with the director, so there's hypocrisy number two from Warner Brothers. And then, of course, we have the story of Hartley Sawyer as well, the man who was sacked off of the Flash after he had a series of tweets from a decade earlier or something like that flare up. And I'm not by any means condoning the tweets, misogynistic, racist tweets, completely out of order, and he was deservedly sacked from his job. But this is the same company around about the same time who hired James Gunn after he gets sacked from Disney for producing the exact same kind of tweets from a decade earlier. So again, hypocrisy reigns supreme at Warner Brothers. They will forget about their morals and do what they deem to be the correct thing when it suits them, when they think they've got a baying public who's supporting them, and then they will completely forget it when it doesn't suit them. And we've seen that with James Gunn, we've seen it with Ezra Miller, we've seen it with Amber Heard. So I'm completely against the mutual consent and the mutual parting of ways between the actor and the studio. I think it's absolute bollocks, and I think Johnny will be vindicated in this American libel lawsuit, if you like. when there's so much more evidence being presented. But look, man, I'm done speaking about it. He's gone. He's getting his full pay. He's happy. He won't give a shit. He's done with it. He'll move off to perhaps other movies if Hollywood don't completely sort of ostracise him like they've done with other people in the past, likes of Robert Downey Jr. And yeah, that's it. And we'll see what happens with the recasting of Gellert Grindelwald. Time will tell who they bring in, if it's going to be a success, and if indeed anybody even gives a shit anyway. But look, let's move on to topic number 2. I've dedicated a huge amount of time to that. I don't know exactly how much time, but a huge amount of time has been dedicated to that headline topic, which is strange for this show because we usually like to move on pretty sharpish, if I can speak, and I can't. The next one's all about Johnny Depp. Johnny Depp. It's all about Johnny Depp. I am absolutely Johnny Depp out my nut. I can't forget about the guy. I just can't get him out of my mind. It's all about John Boyega. Same name, similar name. And he is giving Disney some backlash advice. He's been out speaking about the company. He's been out speaking about a conversation that he had with the company regarding the treatment of, obviously, Finn. I nearly screwed up. I always have issues with that name. I want to call him Foe for some strange reason. I had to think about it. Finn, him being sidetracked in this sequel trilogy after being promoted as a potential Force user and a big important part of this motley gang that were powering the story, if you like. There wasn't a gang, it was really only Daisy Ridley's Ray who was powering the story. It was all about one character, a sort of cardboard shit character like that, and he was left to the side. He wasn't happy about it. He spoke out. The quote down below is the initial speech that he gave after the Rise of Skywalker, essentially criticising Disney for their treatment of him and the obviously Kelly Marie Tran. But this is what he's had to say, is at this moment versatility even is like the biggest thing for me right now. There are so many people I would really like to explore versatility with, different roles and different characters. This is what I do. I enjoy what I do. To stay in one place could be sometimes hard, and that's him in a sense talking about coming back to play the role of Finn and come back to Star Wars. He's not interested, and who can blame him, because this is what he had to say a couple of months ago. What I would say to Disney is do not bring out a black character, market them to be much more important in the franchise than they are, and then have them pushed to the side. It's not good. I'll say it straight up. You knew what to do with these other people, but when it came to Kelly Marie Tran, when it came to John Boyega, you knew F all. So what do you want me to say? What they want you to say is I enjoy being part of it. It was a great experience. Nah. I'll take that deal when it's a great experience. So he came out and he was absolutely vehement in his criticism of Disney and the machine, and they're sort of for diversity and for, I don't know, just pushing people of colour into the fore, if you like. I've got no intentions of backing it up and giving them a meaty storyline like George done back in the 1980s with, of course, Billy D. Williams. But look, I digress. This is the final quote from the man. He says this: when one of your actors, especially an actor that's so prominent in the story, is announced as part of your franchise, then it's a big racial backlash and receives abuse online, and that starts to form a shadow on what's supposed to be an amazing gift. It's important for the studios to definitely lend their voice, lend their support to that, and to have a sense of solidarity, not just in the public eye, but on the ground, on the set. And he's right. He's absolutely right. I didn't like the Rose Tico character. It was nothing to do with Kelly Marie Tran. It was to do with bad writing. Horrendous writing. A superfluous character who added nothing to the story whatsoever. And in a sense, her whole arc with Finn and the Last Jedi going off to that shit casino planet, that was superfluous as well. It was not needed. It did not further the story at all. They went with DJ, I think it was, the Benicio del Toro character. They came back completely pointless, irrelevant, just a tangent went off for about 25 minutes and it slowed the whole story down. It was bullshit. But that was not to do with Kelly Marie Tran, and the abuse she got online afterwards was absolutely disgraceful. Attacking her weight, attacking her ethnicity, attacking her acting skills, just attacking her in general. A Star Wars fan, big Star Wars fan as she's admitted. It was wrong. And he's absolutely correct. The studio threw her under the bus. They cut her completely out of the third movie. Treated her like shit in a sense. And he's right. He's given them advice for backlash. And there's your advice. If you get backlash for perhaps an actor's performance that you've put in the movie and that you've wrote so terribly, then the least you can do is throw them a bone and help them out. And not allow them to be isolated and having to leave social media and stuff like that. So good on you, John, for that. Good on you for sticking the boot into Kathleen Kennedy and the Disney cog, the machine, if you'd like. And I can't wait to watch your movies in the future, because you're a brilliant actor and a brilliant guy with morals that align closely with mine. But look, I digress. let's move on swiftly to another Star Wars topic. It's all about Darth Maul, George Lucas, and his vision for the sequel trilogy. And look, this is coming in from Reddit, but for a change, it's actually got some validity to it. And it's not made up shite in a sense. It's not heard it, as we like to call it, where some vague source pops along and gives us a sort of a wild goose chase, searching for facts and actual hard evidence of what they're saying. This is coming from a guy who's actually wrote a book, and the book is the Star Wars Archives, and the guy's name, and I'm trying desperately to see it through my camera, is Paul Duncan, and this is a little excerpt from said book, and it says this: Darth Maul trained a girl, Darth Talon, who was in the comic books as his apprentice. Don't know what I said there. She was the new Darth Vader, and most of the action was with her. So these were the two main villains of the trilogy. Maul eventually became the godfather of crime in the universe because as the Empire falls, he takes over. And then he goes on to say this: the movies are about how Leia is trying to build the Republic. They still have the apparatus of the Republic, but they have to get it under control from the gangsters. That was the main story, and of course, he goes on to say down below here, and it's not in bold, in charge of everything, she ended up being the chosen one. Leia became the chosen one in George's vision of this sequel trilogy, and Luke, by all accounts, went off and reformed the Jedi in the New Republic and renewed it as a wholesome entity, if you'd like. And look, this just again makes me cry inside for what we could have had if people weren't such ignorant and sort of vicious bitches in their sort of condemnation of the prequel trilogy. And they essentially drove George to sell the IP, the franchise, to Disney. He was done with it. He knew he couldn't please these people, that they were ungrateful, so he got rid of it. And we lost out in this story, and what we got in its replacement, and as a replacement, was utter bollocks in a sense. Discombobulated shambles of a trilogy with no clear creative direction, multiple directors coming in, not listening to each other, not even trying to follow the story up, completely ignoring each other and doing their own thing in a supposed interconnected three-part story. And we lost this, we lost the potential to see it be poetic, as George always says. Lucas, of course, I'm not friends with George, I don't know why I'm giving him his first name, as if I know him personally. But he always says, Star Wars has always been poetic, history repeats itself. Every beginning seems to reoccur again in the ending, if you like. The rise and fall of Darth Vader, the rise and fall of the fanboy, not fall, well, in a sense he would have fell in the sequel trilogy, but him becoming the saviour of the most detested sort of evil guy, more machine than man, than in the galaxy, of course. And again, this would have just been another bit of poetry, if you like, in this sequel trilogy, in George's vision of it, bringing back Darth Maul, a guy who was threw under the bus by Emperor Palpatine. He was discarded, cut in half, he survived, he became a crime lord, he outseen the likes of Jabba the Hutt, and ultimately came back in the sequel trilogy as a thorn in the side to the likes of Luke Skywalker and Leia and perhaps other people. Darth Talon sounds even better as well. We actually get a Darth, a proper Sith. We don't get some bullshit made up nonsense about other Force users and the Sith being dead, and then ultimately they retcon it in the third movie. This just sounds better, man. It's incorporating the crime, which has just always been a part of Star Wars anyway, the original trilogy, the Jabba warlords, or Hutts, the crime lords, and the bounty hunters and stuff. This seems more like Star Wars than what we ultimately got, and that just hurts my soul, man, reading it. The only thing I'd say is Leia becoming the chosen one slightly grinds on me, because I've always viewed Luke as the chosen one. Well, no, maybe not. That's bullshit. Anakin was the chosen one, but he failed, and then Luke ultimately took up the baton and brought balance to the Force. He was always the chosen one for me, but look, you set off in a new story, you elongate this Skywalker saga, you have to kind of redo it. Look, Anakin ultimately thought he was the chosen one, he wasn't. Luke ultimately thought he was the chosen one, he wasn't. Kind of makes sense to make Leia the chosen one in that sort of scenario, but look, wasn't to be. We got the Disney shambles of a trilogy, and we've missed out on this, and that's because of little basement dwelling bitches who bashed George in the prequel trilogy harshly, and I think now they're looking back with fondness to realise that the overarching story is pretty decent. It's just the dialogue and the execution that wasn't quite great. But look, I digress. Topic number 4 on the show, A Quiet Place 2 is getting a spin-off movie. It's coming from the Mud director Jeff Nichols, and by all accounts they are looking to expand out this franchise into a living, breathing universe, cinematic universe. Now that's dirty words to me. I've said it many, many times why it's dirty words to me. It's only been one studio who's ever been able to successfully put together, what the hell is that on my arm? A cinematic universe, and that's Disney with the Marvel Cinematic Universe. DC and Warner Brothers tried, they failed. Universal tried it with their Monsterverse, ultimately failed. And we've seen other franchises trying it over in the past. The likes of Sherlock Holmes, the next one looking to do it, Robert Downey Jr. It'll fail. But I'm going to completely contradict myself here, because I feel like this is a franchise which is perfectly suited to expanding out. Such a unique concept, a post-apocalyptic setting, these alien creatures who have got hypersensitive hearing but they can't see. And it's almost Walking Dead with aliens. There's no zombies, it's aliens. And if you can flesh out a 100 plus comic book series with the Walking Dead concept, if you can give us unbelievable amount of seasons with the Walking Dead, the main storyline, and then give us Fear of the Walking Dead as a spin-off TV show, if you can do all that with that concept, then why the hell can you not do it with this? And why can John Krasinski's baby, if you like, what he buffed to the world with that first movie, and ultimately the second movie, which looks absolutely brilliant too. Trailers have been fantastic. Cillian Murphy's in there with Emily Blunt, the young girl who I think is actually deaf in real life. She's back, and it just looks great. It looks like a continuation. We're getting the prequel, what set everything in motion, and it looks as though it's going to be a real emotive, brilliant movie. And I think this is perfect. And Jeff Nichols is a stupendous screenwriter. He has done quite a lot of projects. Midnight Special to name too. And he's been announced he's going to continue I'm gibbering shit here, and I've got this article up incidentally. He's going to be continuing with a third movie. It's going to be written and directed by Jeff Nichols. Midnight Special, as I say. This is going to come ahead of the release of A Quiet Place Part 2, which was originally set to arrive this year. It has since been pushed to 2021. John Krasinski, who directed the previous two installments, cooked up the idea for the upcoming sequel by, I'm not going to say by all accounts again, I'd say way too much in these shows already, but it looks as though it is. It's going to be a spin-off movie. We don't know that for sure. It's just been speculated at the moment, but it's going to take place in another part of the world, if you like, the universe. Maybe another gang of survivors trepidatiously sort of walking around, scared for their lives. And look, man, it's everything's in the detail. And Jeff Nichols, great screenwriter. I'm sure he'll do a fantastic job with the script. If he's directing it too, I'm sure he'll do a really good job. But ultimately, it comes down to the casting. And look, John Krasinski and Emily Blunt, I always want to say Emilia, were brilliant as a real-life married couple in this movie. The children were cast brilliantly. Cillian Murphy adding to the second movie, he's going to fill that vacuum that obviously John gave us when he sacrificed himself in the first movie. So ultimately, it'll come down to the casting and how we can get that nailed down, and then that will then perhaps give us a greater idea of how this movie's going to play it. The concept as well is going to be so important. I'd love to see Cillian Murphy popping up in it, maybe telling his prequel story of how he got to where he was in the second movie. I love Cillian as an actor. I just think he's absolutely brilliant. Everything he's been in, really. Peaky Blinders, Tommy Shelby, fantastic. And yeah, just everything. I just think he's amazing. There's nothing the guy can't do. Super excited to see what he brings to this second movie, and potentially if it's going to be centred around him, and I can't think of a better actor to centre a new story around, then that would be absolutely fantastic for me. But look, I'm going to move on. It's a long way away. The second movie's not to next year. Third movie's probably about 3 years away. I could be dead by then. I hope not. I'm only 31, Jesus Christ. But look, let's go to the movie burner, entertainment.org/blog. I've done it again. The blog rundown section of a show where I break down 3 previous movie reviews from our team of brilliant writers that I didn't touch upon in a previous show. It's essentially throwing a bone, as I say, the same spiel every week, twice a week. Throwing a bone to these writers, just shining a light on their work. They're brilliant, brilliant writers, and I highly urge you to go for that website, that link there, and give their work a read. You can also review it as well, you can rate it. And the first one coming in today is coming from Peter Plowmers. It's The Boat, and it's a very intriguing poster, and by all accounts not a great movie. I've says by all accounts again. I just love saying that phrase. Peter says that it's a really boring concept in a sense. Well, the concept's interesting. It's just the execution that's slightly boring. The concept of a ghostly, mysterious ship acting of its own volition, and this passenger being thrust onto it. It should work in theory. we've had so many great movies as he does rhyme off in here. The likes of Titanic done it. It wasn't a ghostly apparition that sunk that movie. It was, of course, an iceberg. But we've seen it with Cars as well. The Car, he rhymes off some great ones. Christine. And it's an interesting concept if it's executed well, but by all accounts, I've done it again, isn't executed well. Ultimately, descends into a one man acting on his own on this boat, and it try to get him off the boat. This boat's aware that he's on it, and it's trying to toss him off the boat. And yeah, it's a bit crap, and this is what the man's summary of the movie is. Apart from a bit of grumbling, swearing and murmuring, there is nothing to be heard in that area here. And at one point, it seemed as if this film was repeating itself. The only height, perhaps that was intended. A sign of him descending into madness and he's repeating himself. Perhaps that was intended. I don't know, I've not seen it. The only highlights you could mention are the toilet scene and these storms suddenly coming up. The toilet scene? What's he doing in the toilet and that's a highlight? You're not selling me on this movie, Peter. I presume something else exciting happened in the toilet and it didn't involve any shenanigans. And also the storms suddenly coming up. We'll get back to it. And of course, the acting of the sole protagonist wasn't bad at all, even if it was limited to staring, desperately. But otherwise, in my personal opinion, I thought it was pretty boring. Even the denouement was pretty dull, as if they were also a bit on a bit on the wrong track in terms of creativity. The last image of a floating boat on the horizon had the wrong effect on me. It just made me chuckle quietly. Yeah, it sounds like a crap movie, I've got to be honest. I like these movies and they're done great. I like the concept of the ghostly ship too. I was brought up with my grandfather regaling me of tales of the mysterious Marie Celeste and the Bermuda Triangle and all the stuff that happened there. Ghostly ships sailing into the fog and stuff like that. And that should be a great concept. I've seen some great movies based on ghost ships. There was one, if I recall correctly, when everyone was dancing on the deck and this wire spiraled and sliced them all in half. That was an interesting movie. I'm not going to say it was great, but it certainly sounded more interesting than this. But look, man, it didn't work. Peter didn't enjoy it, and I'm going to move on to the second movie in the blog rundown today. It's another movie from Peter Plemmels, and it's Alive. And this is a zombie flick coming from, I think, Korea. It certainly looks like it's a Korean movie, judging by the names. I don't want to be presumptuous, though, because I'm not well versed in Asian names. It could be perhaps another country, but I'm going to go with Korea here. And I'm going to hope it's South Korea. There you go. Thank God, Peter, you've bailed me out there, man. I was going down a rabbit hole I didn't want to go down. This is directed by Il Cho. And yeah, it's about a young guy who's boarded up in his room. He wakes up and realises, well, he's not boarded up initially, but he wakes up and realises there is a zombie apocalypse on the horizon. It's pretty much happening in actual fact, and he boards himself in the room. Then of course he runs out of food and drink, and he has to go on a journey, try and save his family and just himself, presumably. I think Peter really enjoyed this movie. I read the review. Memory's getting worse and worse, man, so I'm going to read the actual summary and confirm that he enjoyed the movie, but I'm pretty sure he did enjoy it. Alive is not very original and basically shows nothing new. Perhaps he didn't. The zombies themselves do look extremely creepy. There are times when things are getting tense. There are also some funny situations to be seen. Towards the end, they added a separate storyline. Some will find this disruptive. On the other hand, I thought it was a successful addition. It brought a bit of variation to the overall story. Maybe the denouement was a bit over the top, but overall I could agree with the general tone of this movie. Ultimately, we are now in a similar situation with the COVID pandemic. Of course, there aren't any zombies, but many people haven't left their homes for quite some time in the last 6 months to prevent worse. Well, sadly, Peter, I've been out every day because I work and I've got a dog. So I've been out every single day for the last 6 months, longer now. So yeah, it's not really affecting me at all, apart from getting it in May. But even then, I had it for 10 days and I kicked it at the curb. So yeah, but I can get what you mean. A lot of people have been stuck in their houses, and that's a tragedy, really. Some horrendous consequences have arisen out of that, if you like. But look, final thoughts on it. So Alive is more than a regular zombie movie, if you look at it that way. Are you a fan of zombie flicks such as La Nuit, A Devoir, Le Monde? I hope I've said that right, I'm not French. Or to a greater extent also Zoo. Well, we should give this South Korean variant a try on Netflix. It's well worth it. Yes, I did enjoy it. I've been vindicated. I did read the review, incidentally. I don't want you to think I'm winging it here. I read all of the reviews before I come on, just so I'm armed with knowledge of the movie. If I've not seen it, if I haven't, I don't need to read the review. I just need to read your general thoughts, and then I can see whether I can concur. I don't know why I use concur. I agree would just suffice equally well. And then I'll talk about it. But look, I digress. Not got much more to say about it. Of course, recently watched A Train to Busan, and look, there's something about South Korean movies. They're so clinical in the way they are executed. They're so brilliantly shot. The cinematography, the choreography. They've just got a vision for filmmaking, which is different to what we have over here. And it's just, they've got an array of brilliant filmmakers too. Truly brilliant actors. And that's a rabbit hole I need to get down as well. Watch more South Korean movies. But look, until then, I'm going to move on to the third movie review on the Bog Rundown, and it's A War with Grandpa. This one's also coming in from Peter Poimers, and he says that this is in a sense the bog standard modern day De Niro movie. A kind of crap comedy with boring humour, predictable humour, Home Alone humour, not done so well. And just a shadow of what he was. He's admitted it himself, Robert, that he's phoning it in now. He's got bills to pay, he's got a retirement in a sense to pay for. If he's not already done it, he's just doing it for money. He doesn't really care anymore. He's made his brilliant movies in the 70s and in the 80s and in the 90s as well, and he doesn't really have to do it now. Of course, he'd done, I'm completely blanking on the name, but he'd done the one with Scorsese and Pacino and whatnot last year. I don't know why I'm blanking on the name, but but I digress. The Irishman. Jesus Christ. Am I 90 or am I 31? Jesus Christ, man. But let I digress. Let's look at the summary of this review. You had this to say: the rest of the film is a series of silly jokes. Those two arch rivals are playing on each other. The pace at which these pranks follow each other is blisteringly fast, and they are of the level as the April Fool's Day jokes. Replacing shaving cream with quick drying foam, or replacing cookie filling with toothpaste. Well, the movie has its charms. It's a slightly corny comedy and a kind of a mixture of Home Alone and Dennis the Menace. I firmly enjoyed those movies growing up as a kid. Probably too much. Obviously, the film aims at a younger audience because my 8-year-old son next to me laughed a lot while watching. I am afraid I'm not part of the target audience. I guess I belong to De Niro's age group. Really? Thought you were younger than that, Peter. But nobody will ever ask me to play such a part. You can't be the same age in the same age group as De Niro. Not a chance. He's what, 70, late 70s? Jesus Christ. But yeah, we reacted to this. I think we both reacted to it. Maybe I done it on my lonesome, but I think me and Stephen reacted to the trailer for this. Yeah, it was just like that bog standard comedy movie, really. The kind that he's been doing. I disagree with you on one thing though. I really enjoyed Analyse This, whatever one was first. Very young watching it though, so perhaps it's not aged well. I've not watched it in about a decade. I kind of enjoyed that movie, so I'm going to disagree with you on that, but don't disagree with you on the overall sort of modern day career of De Niro. And just the phone-in performances in these god-awful comedies, man. This guy's created his career in crime-based dramas. Get back to that. You're not done yet, Robert. Jesus Christ. But look, moving on to the next topic. That's going to round up the blog rundown. If you want to go to that link there, you can read the more movie reviews. And on that note, I'm going to go to the penultimate topic on tonight's show. It's the Guardians free script has been completed. James Gunn has confirmed on Twitter. Someone asked him. I'm trying desperately to get the article up here so I can read it while I bring it up on the screen. He was asked on Twitter by a certain individual. I don't know who it is. Tominator72. Have you started on the Guardians of the Galaxy 3 yet? Any kind of planning going on, or is it all Peacemaker for now? He says the script is written and most of the production heads have been hired. And he also says in another article, which I'm not going to bring up, that not much has changed during the process for this. Also the pandemic, things kind of grinding to a halt. Nothing's changed, not a lot's changed in his vision, his initial vision of this movie. And that excites me. Because I tell you what, when James gets his head in the game and he writes a movie, 9 times out of 10 he nails it. We've seen it with the Suicide Squad. No real advice given by the studio. There's a term for it. They sort of send notes to the director, maybe urging him to change little things. Well, Warner Brothers watched the first, I presume, sort of production cut. There's a term I'm blanking on it at the moment, but they watched the very first cut of this movie and they didn't offer any advice, any notes, any changes at all. So that again shows you that when this guy writes a script, he generally speaking knows what the hell he's doing. He knows how to write fully fledged 3D characters, great witty comedy, and he intersperses music brilliantly in the concept and the story, I should say. So he knows what he's doing. So this excites me. He's not made much changes. The script is written the production heads have been hired. He has got his vision for this movie lasered in. And I can't wait to see what the hell that vision is, man. Are we going to see Chris Hemsworth coming in as Thor in this movie? Are we going to see perhaps a search for Gamora? Is she going to be off and they have to find her? Some villains in the way? Are we going to see this Guardians of the Galaxy? We're going to see great music, that's for sure. We're going to get Volume 3 of Star-Lord's mixtape, and I cannot wait to see what this man has created, man. It's going to be a while away. This was supposed to be the Phase 4 opener. This was going to be the one that set all the cosmic wheels in motion for Disney Marvel moving forward in this new era of this new saga of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. But it's not come out yet, but it is coming out soon. The man has created the script. He's got the production heads hired, and it will start production soon, I'm absolutely sure, and I'm supremely excited for that day, man, I can't tell you. But look, let's move on to the final topic on the show tonight. And I'm seeing it out in a nice light-hearted way, you know. Speaking about the Holocaust, World War II, and Jewish people, poor Jewish people, fleeing for their lives in Andorra, I think. What a way to end the show. We start off talking about Johnny Depp and domestic abuse claims and who's going to replace him in his huge blockbuster role. We dive into Star Wars and we end on the Holocaust. What the hell was I thinking with this, man? I was thinking that I'm excited about World War II movies. I love war movies. I love watching movies like this that sort of hone in the harsh injustices of the whole war and the human side of the war, the human scale of the conflict. World War II is great in the sense that it can hone in big, huge theatres of conflict. You can see the likes of Saving Private Ryan. I think The Thin Red Line was a World War II movie as well. I need to check that though. Maybe Vietnam. But it can do it all, man. It can do little character studies, introspective looks at hideous people like Hitler. Sophie Shaw, inspiring stories, and now we've got this story as well, man, and let's bring it up. It's coming in from a Spanish director, well, I should say a Catalan director. We don't say Spanish, they hate Spain. Jesus Christ, that's like me saying an English director and he's from Scotland. I don't hate England though, that's harsh. But this is what they've had to say. It's coming in from Variety. It's an exclusive from Variety. Barcelona based Filmax have snagged international rights to the burning cold El Frio Quiquema. Don't speak Spanish. Or Catalan, clearly. The directorial feature debut of Catalan filmmaker Santi Trulenque, who has established a solid reputation in advertising and television. Let's go down. It says this: the burning cold explores a little known aspect of the World War II Jewish diaspora. The escape of Jews through Andorra, a micro-sovereign country in the Pyrenees mountain range of the Iberian Peninsula, set in the winter of 1943. In Andorra, which shares borders with France and Spain, the drama centres on Antonio and Sarah, a young married couple who are expecting their first child. The relative peace in their small town is upended when a family of Jews fleeing Nazi persecution arrive to seek refuge. Sarah in particular will have to face her own internal conflicts and decide whether to listen to her head or her conscience, the synopsis suggests. And the man himself, the producer Sandra Ford has said this: one of the first things that caught my attention in this story was the protagonist was a strong and independent, determined and above all a very real woman. We can see how characters with their supposedly irrelevant actions when faced with their own dilemmas can change the course of history. It's absolutely true. They go on to say this Second World War is an extremely commercial subgenre and one which we have already enjoyed success within the photograph of Mauthausen. And yeah, very intriguing, man. They're absolutely right. That's one of the things that always amazes me about World War II. How the little man can have a huge effect. Sophie Shaw spoke about the White Rose, a sort of resistance group in Germany, handing out pamphlets in universities, educating people on just what was going on the Eastern Front, the barbarism, the Holocaust, educating the German populace and urging them to uprise against the tyranny, the barbarism of the Third Reich. She died, she got guillotined with her brother and other members of the White Rose after they were sold out to the Gestapo SS. And in death, the Allies got their hands on the pamphlets. They sort of redistributed them in their millions over Germany, and they had a real impact. So that was Sophie Shaw, her story. She had one young lady in her early 20s, perhaps even younger, fought up against the might of the Third Reich, and she won in a sense because she did educate the German populace sort of post-death, if you like. So they're right, the little man can have huge effects, and they certainly did have huge effects in this conflict. And look, just on a sort of personal scale, the effect they had in this perhaps real story about this Jewish family fleeing Nazi persecution, does she side with her heart or her head? Her head would probably suggest that she just lets them get captured and they take a step back in self-preservation. Her heart would probably suggest taking them in, risking her own skin, their own family's skin, and saving this family if it all goes well. So that's a concept I love. I love The Pianist with obviously Adrian Brody. It's an amazing movie, man. Just it's studying the real guy. I think it was Vladislav Spielman. So when this is done right, it's absolutely amazing. It could potentially win a foreign language award, best foreign picture at the Oscars. That's the calibre we're talking about when this story's done right. If you've got the filmmaker, you've got the acting nailed in, the story's just right, it can be great. And I love foreign language movies, man. I've watched so many World War II based foreign language movies. Land of Mine, based in Denmark, persecution of young German soldiers, sort of showing that they weren't all evil, that there was humanity within these individual people. The one set in the sort of convent with the Russians and stuff like that. And then obviously The Helpman and Sophie Shaw. I love foreign language movies. This is right up my street, and that's why I spoke about it to end the show. It wasn't all dull and depressing after all, not for me anyway, perhaps for people watching. And I'm excited to see this, man. I'm excited to see this breakout feature debut from this Catalan director, because we've seen it with the guy, Bayona, is it? Who done the middle Jurassic World movie. There's some great talent comes out of Catalan, man. So excited for it. But look, guys, that's going to round up the show tonight. I'm going to pass it over to you. If you've somehow made it to the end of the show and you're going to hear me saying this, what is your thoughts on Johnny Depp being sacked from Crimes of Grindelwald? Yes, I spoke about it again. I spoke about it last night, but I sort of skewed it through the perspective of who should replace him. Do you care about it? Who do you think should replace him? Do you care about it? Do you want to see this movie sans Johnny Depp? Do you think Colin Farrell or perhaps Benedict Cumberbatch or a Sarsgaard or a Tom Hiddleston? Who the hell do you want to see coming in and portraying this character? What is your thoughts on John Boyega educating Disney, a huge big multinational company, studio if you like, on Blacklash? Do you think that's hilarious? Do you agree with John? Do you agree with Disney? What's your thoughts on Darth Maul and the potential sequel trilogy we never got from George Lucas? What do you make about a third spin-off Quiet Place movie spawning a sort of cinematic universe? What do you make about the Bog Rundown, the Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 script being finished, and finally that World War II Jewish sort of drama movie, The Burning Cold? If you've got anything to say at all, you can comment below and let me know what your thoughts are down below in the comments section. You can also like the video if you've enjoyed it, and subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content like this in the future. And look, guys, if you do, that's precisely what you get. You will see more content like this in the future, more movie news, joint movie news with me tomorrow with Stephen, movie reviews, reactions, everything in between. But look, until then, I'm going to bid you farewell with a sort of crap. Bye bye.